Good great evening to ya. It's your girl Key. How does it find you? I promised that I would do a live, and so I'm determined to do one before I go home tonight. Friends, how are you doing? It's your girl Key. Just a quick one, a quick check-in. How are how is it all going? Like, one of the things I'm realizing more and more and more is like lockdown is, it's a generic situation, but it's unique to all of us in terms of how we getting on with it. You forgot the time. Hey, don't worry about that. I'm glad to have you on board. It's your girl Key. Listen, I vibe off you, so you guys please make sure you ask me questions because otherwise I'm gonna pack up and go home because it's been one of those long days. It's your girl Key. Just to let you know, I have released a blog for called Women in the Shadows. It was a blog I wrote many years ago. You know, when you're seeing somebody and they kind of sideline you, treat you like you don't have value. And for many years, those are the types of relationships I used to indulge in because I didn't think I was worth more. And so this is just one of the poems that I wrote many moons ago, talking about like not getting the validation that you know you're worth, yet for whatever reason we end up tolerating nonsense and saying yes to a relationship. But in the end, you're in what we call therapeutically, we could say you've got like conflict within because there's a part of you, okay, the internet is rubbish now. There's a part of you that knows you're worth more, yet for whatever reason, you keep settling for less. And if that speaks to you, let me know. If you need to inbox your girl Key, that's fine. We don't have no problem with that because I get it. It's highly personal. Yet, what is important for us to be conscious of is that there is nobody else to blame. That actually you actually make a choice and you allow people into your life. But there's often a deeper reason in terms of why we play small and we stay in the background. So if you're someone and you keep finding that you don't get the validation that you feel that you are worthy of, or you continuously end up in intimate relationships where, when you're just fighting for someone to value you and to care. And you may well care for that person, but ultimately that doesn't come back to you. People become bitter when you put your foot. Oh, yes, my dear friend. People will become bitter when you put yourself first because often some of them have trained us and conditioned us to put them first. So when we make ourselves redundant from that role, we should expect a backlash. And I think, we should prepare ourselves for the backlash because often, people trade on us not valuing ourselves. But depending on the situation you're in, it can be pretty coarse and it can be very difficult. And if you're not empowered, so if you're dependent on others, those sanctions can be very, very distressing. If you're living with people or you've got, loans out, or listen, don't even get me onto the one with loans out and people using your details. It can get very nasty. I need a vision board to keep me motivated. I've been a bit sluggish these last couple of days. Well, yeah, I mean, I have a vision board. I like a vision board, but sometimes it does start to pale into the background as well. So, vision boards, I like a vision board. I like to, visualize, bring dreams to life. But sometimes, and it's okay to have down days. It's okay to feel sluggish. Like, there's nothing you need. Maybe you just need to have a down day and there's nothing you need to do. You just need to ride that through. Ride that through, man. There's no problem with that. Waiting for your happy ever after. Selena, you know about that, right? Often people will waiting for a happy, a lot of the times, especially if you're a woman in the shadows, I call it. Some would say maybe a side chick. And there's lots of ways that people treat, a mistress, bit on the side. But, or if you feel like you're in the shadows of someone's life, it doesn't always mean that you're the mistress, but you just feel that you don't get the prominence that you deserve from somebody. And that can be very tricky if you think that if you feel you have feelings for that person. But ultimately, I think we have to make choices, you know, and it's very seductive to blame others. True, but we shouldn't pay them attention too much. It's full-time job. I'm not too sure what you mean there, Franz. But it is one of the things that we've got to learn in life is to be our own best friend. Often, I think we can give and love, and in that giving, there is a whole raft of expectations that causes us a lot of grief and a lot of pain. And as ever, my empaths, I'm always going to be onto you because we consistently do this to ourselves. We consistently love, 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 and we create problems for ourselves because often as empaths, we do have an agenda. Yeah, we have an agenda because we want people to value us. Now, if there's anything I'm saying here that speaks to you, feel. Oh, I think I pressed the wrong button there. I'm waving. Um, I'm waving there. Pin comment. Okay, so we have to learn to be our own best friend. Often we give with an expectation. And when those expectations aren't fulfilled, this is exactly why you perpetually find yourself frustrated. And for a lot of women in the shadows, what can also happen is that you also are living in hope that situation will change. You are living in hopeless hope that situation. Hello, Nutmeg, how are you? Any questions you may have about love and intimate relationships, feel free to ask your girl Key. More than happy to help. One of the challenges you may have is that you live in hope that that person will change. And this is one of the reasons why often, not in all situations, but why people can lose respect as well. Selena, big up yourself, waiting in vain. As Bob Marley said, was it Bob Marley? I don't want to wait in vain for your love. We're waiting in vain, and actually the years are going by, and what can also happen in the time that we're waiting in vain is that that person's respect can also diminish. Now, this is especially true if you're a giver. If you're a giver and you're an empath, this is especially true for you because you guys, because I'm one of them, we are not great at protecting our niceness. And this is one of the reasons why people violate and take the piss. You have to learn to see a situation as it is, not as you want it to be. Now, that's very difficult for empathic people because we're naturally optimistic and we are often hopeful. That is a beautiful skill, optimism and hopefulness. However, they always need to be grounded in reality. The reality is, for so many of us, and I know this is true for myself in my unwoke years when I wasn't conscious, that I think we make ourselves victims. Sorry to say it, we make ourselves victims because we make choices that actually hurt us. And I think this is one of the reasons why people are scared of coming to therapy. Like, oh, Key, I've been watching you for years and I'm only reaching out now. One of the reasons is because what happens is if you choose to work with myself, is we're going to start to look at the root cause. Nobody wants to look at the root cause when you're having fun. But the reason why we behave this way in 2020 has roots back down in our younger years. And so sometimes if you are continuously baffled by your behavior, if you baffle yourself and you can't work out why you keep tolerating nonsense, often the enemy is within. A lot of us think our enemy is the people that hurt us and did us wrong and they took the mick and they violated. But the true reality is the enemy is within. People cannot do what they do to us without our permission. So the reality is what we've got to start to do is to look at the choices that you make. So that is why we start to look at self-awareness. If this makes sense to you guys, feel free, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask your girl Key. I'm more than happy to answer. Dan D, Wagwandi, hello, good to see you out there. We'd rather be hurting and love that person. We rather be hurting and love that person. We rather be hurting. Listen, there's only no, like, so love hurts then, right? Trunk, trunk. I don't know. So your view of love is that love will hurt then. So you combine love and hurt. Well, well, maybe potentially based on your own story, maybe that's been a truth for you, right? That maybe you think that love should hurt. And I would that must be very difficult. That must be very difficult living in that way. And relationships, I presume, must be a bit of a roller coaster. As you get up in age, I would presume maybe you want a little bit more calmness. I would assume you might want some companionship. I would presume you may not want the drama and the problems. So, love and her, I don't know. I don't know about that one. That must be very, very difficult for you. If you have any questions, though, please do let your girl Key know. Not me. I don't want to hurt anymore. Yeah, I don't want to hurt anymore. Who doesn't want to hurt anymore? But friends, the real issue with that, if you don't want to hurt anyone, is if you love, to love is to risk, because there are no guarantees. You see, friends, and this is one of the things that gets us stuck, is that we've been hurt, we've been wounded, we've got our little war wounds, and then we think, okay, I don't want to make myself vulnerable again. And often I see this frequently as a therapist, and obviously I've been there myself, is that we put up the iron gates, we pull up the moat. Remember the moat? We pull up the drawbridge and we create a little island. We go into ourselves and we don't make ourselves vulnerable again. But to me, to risk is to be alive. Like, to risk is to be alive. So when you make your world so padded and so safe, it's a bit like the parents who won't let their children out to play or have to wipe down everything. The child isn't able to experience. And I think life is all about experience. And so if we try to make love safe, we then can end up not risking at all. And that is not great for us. As much, I would always be encouraging you, which is what we'll look at on the Pain into Purpose course, is to think about how you can learn the lessons from your previous relationship in order to be wiser, smarter, and to learn from those experiences. In addition, a lot of us have got a problem because we have a certain type. All of the gallem who like a little bit of rough, who like a bit of wood, who like a bit of road, who maybe for some of the ladies we think we can turn a bad man good. Well, we know that's a recipe. Well, as you get older, you'll probably realize that's a recipe for the disaster. What do we have here? I don't want to hurt anymore. I used to choose to stay with that person, although I had been hurt. Yeah, well, that might well be a kind of a norm that you become normalized to that. Nutmeg, how do you break through the bad and dysfunctional habits? How do you break through the bad and dysfunctional habits? I think one of the first things you got to do is you got to realize, what are they? Start to name them. So you've got to name them. So if I think about myself and some of the most unhelpful habits I've had, I used to go for emotionally unavailable men. So that was something that I began to notice. But at the same token, I noticed that in men who were emotionally available, I'd reject because I'd be like, oh, he's boring, he's a bit dry, he's a bit safe. So that's something that I had to work through in my own self. So I think the fact that you've identified, you have to identify specifically what are the bad habits that you have. What are they specifically? What problems do they cause you? And then I would encourage you to start to think about. So say, for example, for me, your phone is always a great place to play these things out, because say the phone call comes in and then you may slip into your old behavior. What you can do is start to observe yourself. Because I don't know about you, but I know sometimes in my past when I've been head over heels for some bozos, I would, as soon as their name flashed up on the phone, it would do something to you. It would do something to me. But as I've matured, I've learned to stop reacting, take time out, and to respond. So I think maybe in terms of what you're thinking about, Nutmeg, I don't know if you have a type. If you have a type, yeah, they may all have different names, but there's similarities between all of them. That would be something that I would encourage you to start to think about, having a type. For me, having a type was not helpful, and I had to break out of that type. And I think when you have a type, you can still be drawn to those people, but you have to use your wisdom and know it ain't good for me to go down that road, you know? And so that's where you pause. You start to observe yourself. Being able to observe yourself rather than just reacting all the time is a very important life skill. Learning to observe yourself. So it may sound, I hope that don't sound deep because I don't think I was getting deep tonight, but learning to observe yourself. And one of the ways I often observe myself is through the phone. Say someone I really like, it's like he's got the big old ding dong ding and girth, length, and everything. We like that, ladies. And, it's just important for me to take time out. And that's especially important if you're impulsive. If you're impulsive and, maybe you're someone who just goes head over heels for people, that is something to be conscious of. So you want to start to develop the opposite. Yes, Selena, I see you laughing. I knew that would speak to somebody out there. You know how that goes. Usually them ones give the most trouble. So watching your behavior on your device is very important. And if you're someone who's very impulsive, then potentially the quality to develop is to be less impulsive, is to start to, slow that down in yourself, because then you'll start to observe. And maybe you'll also start to hear what we say to ourselves will be like, oh my God, I can't miss his call, and how we dash to the phone. Sometimes, you know what? Especially if the relationship isn't on your terms, and listen for the ladies, not that it doesn't happen to men. If the relationship's not on your terms, and say you like him and you feel that it's not equal, then sometimes it's good to like miss a call and not be so available all the time. Not be so available backslash desperate, because people pick up on desperation. Yeah. And if, for example, a potential love recruit or someone you're dating senses your desperateness, it's highly likely potentially that the power dynamic in the relationship is not going to be equal. And so you have to be careful of that imbalance, because not always, but there could be a recipe for abuse and power games. We don't necessarily want that. So not always making yourself available is also helpful. But one of the tips that I'm really passionate about telling people, and I think people find this particularly bizarre, is like, can you learn to be friends with somebody? You know, there's so much of a hunt to meet this person. Like, I want to meet this person, but what about being friends? Like, why does it always have to be about being, in an intimate relationship? Intimate relationships take a whole lot of work. They take a whole lot of work. And often, some of us, we're going into some car crash relationships. And because you know why they're car crash relationships? Because some of us never get to know the person, because we weren't friends with them first. We were not friends first. We just got seduced. They had nice little talk, make you feel sweet. And the next thing you know, it is what it is. But in actual fact, did you get to understand and get to know the person? And if we didn't get to know the person, then this is one of the reasons why we can end up in situations where, 6 months later, we start seeing the true colors and we're like, I can't believe this. I can't believe what I've ended up with. So, um, I get, the online dating and all of that. Wonderful. Um, it's very interesting. I've had an experience of it recently. It's not my gig, but I decided to do it to see what that's about. And it's very build a foundation. You see me? That's right, Selena. We need to know, like, let's just, because I don't know, but I don't want to start finding the stuff out backwards. Like, I don't want to start finding stuff out backwards, especially once we've grown attached. Especially for women, we have oxytocin. We have a chemical that gets released through lovemaking. So our attachment, this is probably why, you get some women who are a bit overzealous, can be very profound. And I know for myself, sometimes it's taken also years to get over somebody. Yes, you may not be together, but at the psychological, emotional level, you can still be bonded to that person. Yeah. And it can be years later. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Because a lot of us, to our friends, oh, yeah, man, I'm over that. But sometimes we still have feelings. And there's nothing wrong with having feelings for somebody. This is especially for my empaths, because empaths, we just care. And it's very annoying, but it's just the way you're wired. What can we do about it? Just because you have feelings for somebody, it don't mean that you need to be following them, though. Sometimes the feelings just need to be at, because the relationship can't be. The relationship cannot be. And that's another thing that gets us in a lot of issues, is we think because we have feelings that the relationship should naturally ensue. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Some of them you got to love from a distance. Some of them you got to like from a distance. Some of them you need to call the police, actually. Some of them you just need to block and delete, and you just got to get over it. You have to learn to be your own best friends. And for my highly sensitive people who are also emotional, you've got to learn to not be at the mercy of your feelings. Your feelings will have you shaving and grooming and running around. When that person picks up the phone, you'll be saying yes. When in actual fact, you know it in yourself. Sometimes we need to say no and to sit with that. Sit with that. That's our choice. Yes, D. And look at the time now. So it's your girl Key. I thought I'd just quickly go live before I went home. I've been here since 12 today. Key for Change, we're still seeing clients. I've been seeing clients the whole time. We've created the Pain into Purpose course. So I am still here. If inbox me if there's anything I've said there that touches on the challenges that you're facing. But additionally, and I think one of the biggest factors is, how we were loved in our formative years, how we were loved when we were kids, because so much of that shapes us. But that doesn't mean, that means that we have to be at the mercy of that for the rest of our days. It doesn't. We can also change. Takes time, takes practice. It takes a couple of deleting people. It takes saying no to people. Oh, you're welcome, Nutmeg. Nutmeg, if you got any more, just inbox me. I could talk about this all day long. It's my calling. It's why I'm here. But like I said, we have to learn to be our own best friend. And most importantly, we have to learn to develop self-compassion. 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 So we become our own best friends. So we learn to say, you know what, Key, you may want to go down that road, but you know what, tonight, sit down, you're not going nowhere, because then people ain't no good for you. They're not going to give you the status that you rightfully deserve. So sometimes, as my friend Tony Braxton says, yeah, me and his friend, we went swimming together a long time. You gotta let it flow. Let it flow, let it go. D, we need to go for a bike ride, We need to go for another bike ride. My peoples, it is your girl Key. I'm about to dash. If you do have a question before I go, let me know. Feel free to post it here. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. What about, you know what? Maybe I should do one in the morning about lockdown link ups, because that's quite interesting, isn't it? Lockdown link ups. How's that been going? Very interesting. But, no jest there, but we also know that a lot of relationships are under some serious strain, because people are actually spending time with their partners, and usually they don't. And now we're really starting to see some of the cracks, but we also know that domestic abuse, domestic violence is a significant problem during lockdown. And the football starting again, and we know that there's always an escalation in domestic abuse when the football starts. So that's a recipe to. So watch out, people beware. Like, check in with your queens, especially if you know that their relationship is a little bit rocky. All check in with people, see how they're doing. Ask them how they're doing. It's your girl Key. I'm a psychotherapist here at Key for Change. I'm here to make a difference and I help people each and every day in a whole manner of creating, struggling through. Yeah, let's bike ride, babe. Let's bike ride. I'm here to help people and I help people in a whole raft of creative ways. It's not just about traditional therapy. I help people through coaching. I have online courses. And sometimes people just call me for a one off. They're like, Key, I need to run this past you because right now I'm baffled. We all have it. This is why I don't keep banging on about mental health problems. This isn't about mental health. This is about guidance. We all get lost in life sometimes. We all have little unhelpful patterns that we keep repeating. Don't mean we're mad. It just means it's part of life. And so people engage with me because they want to consult someone who's not in the situation. That's it. No big deal. Like, I'm seeing my therapist tomorrow morning at 9:45. Do I look mad? Exactly. I don't. It's your girl Key. Remember, I'm here to be of assistance. Should you need it, inbox me. Remember, do take care of you. Because if you don't, nobody is coming to save you. You gotta learn to be your own best friend.